Hola mundo, hello world, it's your girl Brenda Carrillo, and as promised, here's the video on defense mechanisms. And so I'm going to try to be brief and just briefly kind of explain the theorist behind it, Sigmund Freud, and kind of the theory behind the personality theory, which I'm going to be explaining. And so a lot of, historically, Sigmund Freud was around a long time ago. And they've kind of disproved a lot of what he had said about psychology. But some things remain true, such as this theory on personalities and defense mechanisms. And so I'm going to talk about the three different elements that kind of guide or trigger these defense mechanisms to kind of pump up and really make us be defensive. And you'll see how they look in different elements. So let's just get into it. You know, the three elements of this personality principle or theory of personality are the id, the ego, and the superego. Now, you may have heard that before. And I want you to kind of think of it as kind of a scale, right? A balancing scale. And there's two ends of the spectrum. So where my elbows are, there's two different ends of the spectrum, right? So the id, the ego, right here in the middle, and then the superego. And I'll talk about what each one means. Okay, so let's start with the id. The id is the primary, that kind of instinctual, I want what I want and I want it right now. Okay, have you ever kind of felt that urge? Like, I don't know about you, but I'm a chocolate fanatic. And sometimes when I'm at the grocery store, when I see that Toblerone bar, I want it and I want it right now, right? Sometimes to the point where I don't know, this has happened very rarely, but where I open it right there and pay for it at the counter, right? Because I want it and I want it right then and there. There's nothing in me that really says, hey, Brenda, hold on, just wait, because I want it. That id is really overpowering the ego and the superego. Okay, so it's that pleasure principle. I want what I want and I want it now. The ego, what that element's job is, it's the reality principle. So it's the one kind of checking the ego, saying, hey, you know, right now maybe not a good time to eat that third ice cream bar, right? Slow down a minute. And so it's kind of checking it. It's guiding the inhibitions or the activity of the id. So I may not necessarily open up that Toblerone bar. I may just put it there and maybe decide to save it for later. Who knows? And then the third element, which is a superego. And this is, again, remember, on a continuum, opposite ends of the spectrum. One wants what it wants and it wants it right now, not caring about rules. Like, there's no regard for rules. I don't care what the police officer says. I don't care that there's laws in my state. I want what I want and I want it right now, okay? And then the superego is the complete opposite. It's the moral aspect of the theory, right? And it's saying, hey, absolutely not. We got to play by the rules, but we'll get in trouble if we do that. And it's considered to be the conscience, conscience of this complete theory. And so it's the ideal situation. It's the moral element. It's the one on the complete end of the spectrum telling the id, no, we can't do that. That's a complete wrong thing to do. And so the ego's in the middle, kind of balancing them out. Okay, so that's kind of an important thing to understand. I'm not really going to go into how the id, the ego, and the superego all interact and why and how when they react to a frustration or a triggering event, something that's angering, why and how they interact. I may get into the nerdology of it, maybe not. But let's get into the defense mechanisms, because here's what's really important. This is what happens. This is what we see when we are triggered by a family member, when we're triggered by a memory, when we're triggered by something that we smell that takes us back to a place in time. And then it kind of brings our shoulders up. And it makes us a little more defensive and a little kind of that wall in people's face, right? And it's very noticeable. So one of the very first defense mechanisms is repression. And it's something that we do maybe mostly unconsciously. And it's when a stressful event happens and we're trying to, like, these emotions start coming up, these feelings start coming up, these ideas start coming up, and we just want to push it down. Like, no, where's this coming from? I don't want to think about this right now. So I'm going to try to push this memory down. An example could be, you know, maybe you experience a traumatic event in your childhood. And here you are in your 30s, happy-go-lucky, everything's going great in your life. And then these memories of that traumatic event start to come up. And it's too much to handle. What's going on? Like, everything in life is going well. Why is this coming up? So you try to push it down. You try to ignore. You try to avoid. You try to ignore the fact that you're having these feelings and these thoughts instead of confronting it. And that's where the problem is. That's where it becomes problematic. The second defense mechanism is denial. Now, we joke about this all the time. What's the longest river in Africa? Denial, right? Ha ha ha. But do we really know what it means? What does denial truly mean? And so, what that means is we're blocking an external event from our awareness. So, if I'm sitting here in an argument with somebody and we're talking about the sky and the color that the sky is, and you're sitting here telling me that the sky is blue, everybody around can clearly see the sky is blue. I mean, we all know that it's not, right? But anyways, the sky is blue, and so I'm sitting here arguing. That's an external cue. That's something that's outside of me that I can see, that's showing me that, hey, this is an accurate argument. But I'm in complete denial. I'm saying, nope, that's not true. I don't believe it. That's not what happened. That's not going to happen at all. It can be very, I guess one of the things in psychology that we learn is that you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. And if a person is in denial, if a person can clearly not see something that is so visible to everybody else, pray for that person. Honestly, because there's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to do really to make them see what you want them to see. They're in denial. That's a very a complex defense mechanism. Like, for example, if a smoker were to really try to convince themselves, well, smoking's not bad for my health, despite what all the research says, right? It says, hey, it causes cancer. The nicotine in the tar, there's buildup in your esophagus, and all of this. And so the smoker, because they want to, I don't know, make it okay for themselves, right? Say, hey, that statistic, those facts about smoking, that's not true and it doesn't apply to me. That's denial, okay? Oh, projection. This happens a lot. We see it a lot. It may be something that I'm feeling myself, and because I cannot deal with it on a conscious level, I will make somebody else feel what I'm feeling, or I will tell somebody else what I'm feeling, without even really knowing that I'm doing it. If you look at my Instagram page, there's a picture that I posted on projection, and it talked about, I'm sorry that if you didn't have a very nice parent or a very nurturing parent, because a lot of times this is where we see the projection, and it's a vicious cycle that kind of continues over and over and over. And so you got to interject at some point, because and become more mindful of what you're feeling and what you are experiencing, because what we feel, it exudes onto other people, and we throw it onto other people, and we project onto other people, right? Think of a projector. What does a projector do? It takes something tiny and turns it into something huge on a screen. That's the same thing that we're doing. It's taking that little tiny thought, that negative thought that, hey, I'm not good enough, that I have of myself, and now I'm projecting it onto somebody else. I'm telling my sister she's not good enough. I'm telling my mom that she's not good enough. But the truth of the matter is, that's the negative thought that I have myself, and I don't know how to face or fix. The next one is displacement. Oh, this happens a lot. So let me give you just an example of what it is, right? So I have a boss that irks me and just made me upset. Here I am, end of the day, and I get this email that, hey, that report didn't get completed the right way. You got to come in early tomorrow and complete it the right way. Right? Woosah. I know I'm not going to go in there and cuss out my boss. Like, I have more logic than that. And that's probably not the right way to handle it anyways. But I know the limits. I know the boundaries. And so because I know that I can't get my boss, who's the one that made me angry, I'm going to now be stuck in traffic on my drive home. And guess what? Every person that wants to get in my lane, I'm not letting it happen. I'm zooming up, right? Like, I'm speeding up. You're not going to get in my lane. Now I'm taking out the anger that I had on my boss, on this person, on the freeway that had nothing to do with it. I'm displacing the anger, that emotion, that thing that I couldn't do to that target thing that made me upset. Now I'm displacing it and putting it somewhere else. So, it's usually aggression. It's usually a reaction to aggression. Not that we can't displace our sadness to somebody else, or displace, a different feeling towards somebody else. Okay. There's a lot here. So here's the thing about defense mechanisms. There are a lot, but I'm probably covering some of the more common ones. The next one that I'm going to talk about is regression. And we see this a lot. We see this a lot in kids. We see this a lot in kids when there's a new baby in the house, right? Now the 4-year-old wants to start sucking their thumb and going back to baby talk. They're regressing back to a moment in time where it was comfortable, where they were safe. It's their safe zone. And so when it's a time of stress, a stressful situation, you may see a 10-year-old go back to sucking their thumb. They may be frightened. They may be unsure of what's next. And so they regress back to a moment in time where it was comfortable, where it was safe, where they knew that it was okay. Sublimation. So this one is kind of similar to displacement, only instead of taking it out on like a person or a dog, right, we take it out on a different activity. Now, sometimes there's usually a positive connotation to it. So I'm super stressed out. Let's use the same scenario, right? My boss upset me at the end of the day. I still have to come in early tomorrow and turn in this report. Now, instead of taking it out on somebody as I'm driving, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the gym and run 5 miles and get it out that way. So instead of a person, I'm taking it out on in a constructive way instead of a destructive way. And that's why there's that positive connotation to it. Yeah. Let's see. Rationalization. Oh, we do this. I'm really excited about this one because in the future we're going to be talking about cognitive distortions. And cognitive distortions is just a big fancy word of saying a messed up way of thinking. Cognitive is your thoughts, your cognitions, it's your thoughts. And distortion is, when you see something distorted or blurred or it's just not clear, that's our thoughts that aren't clear. It's unhelpful ways of thinking. And so rationalization is one of those. And it's a lie that we tell ourselves when the fact when the fact of the matter or the situation is threatening. And so an example would be, let me rationalize something. Okay, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm in school all the time, right? And I could easily have said I failed 1 or 2 classes in my time, 1 or 2, right? I don't condone it, but it happens. And so a way that I could have rationalized that because for the most part, I'm a 3.98 and above student. That's my GPA. And I could rationalize it by saying, well, you know what? I failed my geography class because my teacher didn't like me. Or, well, I didn't get that prize because they're just jealous of me, right? And so we try to make it okay in our mind, that unpleasant event, that unpleasant situation, that unpleasant thing that happened, we try to make it okay in our mind because we don't want to feel bad about ourselves or the fact that maybe we don't qualify or the fact that maybe we're not good enough, but that's okay. And so we rationalize things in our mind. We'll talk about that. Those are pretty common ones. So a really important thing is if you're not aware, how can you fix it, right? So my theory and my personal mantra always is, when you know better, you do better. And so the first thing is just becoming aware, becoming aware that sometimes a family member may say something to us and bring up the cold hard facts, but we're in denial about it because we don't want to, our mind can't really process the information of the facts, right? So sometimes it's a place that we're just not ready to deal with. But an important piece is to just recognize that, hey, we all have flawed thinking. We all have things that we don't think right. We all have things that we try to protect ourselves from, be it a person, be it a situation, be it a past hurt, be it a future endeavor that we're scared of. We all have something that kind of raises our shoulders and makes us a little bit defensive. And so the first step is really recognizing, what is that for you? What is it that kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck kind of stand up? What is it that's triggering you? What is it that's making you feel these negative thoughts or emotions, and then questioning it? What is this? Why am I feeling this? Is it the person? Is it me? Because most of the time, and they say this, is that when we point out the flaws in other people, That's actually us identifying what's wrong with ourselves. That's a defense mechanism as well. And so I hope this was helpful. I know I'm a little bit long-winded. I promise the videos will get better and more concise, but there is a lot of information in here that I really just want to share with you guys. So give me constructive feedback. I want to know, what can I have done better? What do you guys want to know? What did I leave out about defense mechanisms? Let me know, because it's a full theory. And so I hope it was helpful. Tips you can use: walk away from a situation when you're triggered by a family member. Listen to music. Communicate. Say, hey, you know what? Right now, I'm not able to talk about this. Can you give me a minute? And walk away. That's okay. It's okay to ask for some time. And it's okay to express your feelings. Don't tell other people what they feel about you. Tell them what you feel yourself. Use I statements. I'm feeling this. I'm thinking this. This is what I'm going through. Again, not projecting onto other people what you think they might be experiencing or what you think they might be thinking about you. Walk away. Pet a dog. You know, it's the little things that really kind of matter. Watch a funny video on YouTube. Here are some things that you can do to avoid a big blow up, to avoid a confrontation, to avoid going into action, to avoid giving into that id, right? And that impulsive action that id wants to do. Oh, you want to talk about me? Okay, watch me handle this. That's not what we want to do. Don't make the ego work so hard. All right, this is your girl signing off. Again, leave comments down below. Let me know what else you want to learn. We're going to talk about defense mechanisms later again. I guarantee you it will come up. It's a common thing. Love you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't be the one to go off on your family members at Thanksgiving. You've learned. You know better now. Bye.